Oh, have I just wasted 1,500 quid on screens that I'm not even going to be able to use? Oh, shit. Damn it. Bloody Nora. Oh gosh. Wow. This, if you've never seen it before, is the Game Boy Mega Machine, and it looks a little bit worse for wear. Oh, poor thing. So this project, amazingly enough, has actually spanned nearly 2 years. It's been quite the saga. I haven't worked on it all the time. In fact, I haven't worked on it for about 8 months now, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I figured we should just look at this because yeah, it's gathered a lot of dust. The last video I did on the Game Boy Mega Machine was, I think, the last video before the first lockdown in March, and it was playing 50 copies of Pokemon Blue all at the same time. Ooh. And since then, it's been quite a sad story for the Game Boy Mega Machine. You see, the first lockdown, it was very difficult for me to go to my workshop. The workshop was in a car garage, and yeah, I couldn't get there, so I ended up working in a cave in the back of a flat I was staying at that time. And this thing, for a while, sadly got forgotten about. It spent about 3 to 4 months in storage, and then a couple of months it came here to the museum, and it started gathering dust as I was doing work all over the building. So this thing has spent most of its time underneath a dust sheet, but the dust sheet doesn't seem to have worked. So at the start of this year, this Game Boy Mega Machine project was coming along quite nicely. So now there's a second lockdown, I may as well try and finish it. Yeah, right. Today I'm going to try and get it up and running and see if it works. It's quite a big machine, and I think the middle one took a bit of a tumble because it's moved at least twice this year. So yeah, hopefully I can get it running, fingers crossed. But before that, there's a couple of other things that we need to talk about that are in the plan for this machine. So the existing 3 boxes, this one, the middle one and the top one, are not the whole Game Boy Mega Machine. This is actually only the top part, because right now you have to bend down to use the controls. There's actually going to be a bottom box, and this is where the keyboard sits, and hopefully, fingers crossed, don't hold me to this, but stereo Leslie speakers, you know, the spinning around ones. And this is going to add about 3 to 4 foot more height to this machine, so it's going to be a very tall machine when it's done, as right now, you know, it's like, looks a bit odd trying to play it on the floor. So in the next couple of weeks I'm going to have a look at getting the woodwork for that sorted. And there's also another issue that came up in the last video doing the Pokemon thing with the screens. So here is one of the Game Boy modules. For some reason it looks like it's actually been covered in some weird gloop stuff, so this poor thing, I've got to clean the whole thing out. So there's been an issue with the Game Boy Mega Machine from the start, and it was really kind of obvious when I did the Pokemon video. So how it works at the minute is, in the Game Boys there are the original Game Boy screens, which originally were not backlit. These Game Boys don't have backlights, and there's an aftermarket backlight behind it which makes it, you know, easy to see. However, these have never ever been that perfect. They haven't been great, and the problem is there's also a viewing angle. You can't really see much when you're looking from down. You sort of have to look at it dead on, or it doesn't really do it justice. And that is actually quite a problem when there's 50 of them and there's one of you looking at every single one at a different viewing angle. It means you have to move your head around all the time to see what the heck is on the screens. But thanks to modern aftermarket Game Boy modifications, there is a solution. And it comes in the form of this, an IPS screen. I went in on a group buy with Deadpan Robot, and I've got 50 of them to make the Game Boy Mega Machine. I initially tried the IPS screen with the furry Game Boy that I modified a while back. I made that furry Game Boy about 8 to 10 years ago, but I never finished it. So I put the IPS screen in it to figure it out, and I gotta say, it's an amazing screen. I put it in this case that Deadpan Robot stock, and he stocks like loads of colours of cases and screens and a heck of a lot of Game Boy mods, not just Game Boy DMG, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and a load of other gaming console modifications. Go and check out, the links are below for Deadpan Robot. But yeah, I'll just turn it on and show you the IPS screen, and you can see what I mean. Just look at that. Look at the view. Look at that. You can actually change the color of the screen, but this doesn't bother me that much because I just sort of want it to be the inverted version. Come on, where's inverted? I can see it from all angles. This is just perfect. Look at that, you can see it. It also makes the picture 11% larger, and it comes with a glass front that is 11% larger as well, which is pretty crazy. So if you've been following this series, you will know that each of these backlights are actually separately controllable, so they can act as a pixel on a screen to make the Game Boys do pattern. And this is possible due to the bus boards around the back of the Game Boy Mega Machine, which I made to be able to turn on and off these screens independently. And after a lengthy Patreon live stream a couple of weeks ago looking at the ISP screens, I've realised a bit of a problem. That being, without a serious amount of modification on my part to each of the circuits, it's not going to be able to be a cross-compatible swap. This means that this is not going to be able to be controlled with pixels unless I spend about 1 million more hours on it. And the fact that the screen control circuitry is not as important as the actual synthesizer itself, I have a feeling it may be one step too far. So if we lift up the old original screens, here is the backlight that I added. So this backlight is no longer needed. However, there's a load of circuitry in the back of the Game Boy Mega Machine to control it, to turn it on and off and make pixel patterns. Unfortunately, like I said, this circuitry isn't going to work with the new ones to turn on these screens on and off. However, there is space to put this backlight around the back of this board. And what we're going to do is we're just going to illuminate the Game Boys with this circuitry. It's not pretty, but what I've done is I've used some adhesive and stuck down the actual backlight to the back of the panel so it sits behind the Game Boy. You know what, I'm reasonably happy with that. That isn't that bad at all. That's pretty good. By the way, as you can see, a number of the knobs have been removed. I actually ended up using a lot of these knobs in the 1000 Oscillator Mega Drive. So I'm going to start filling them up. And to thank people for supporting these things, I'm going to do the put your name on a knob on the Game Boy Mega Machine as well. So if you want your name on the Game Boy Mega Machine, on the knobs, well, just sign up to Patreon, any Patreon tier, and you'll get your name on a knob, either on the base one, this one, this one, or this one. There's a fair few left, so if you want your name on a knob, then you can have your name on a knob. So here is an updated module. I'm going to swap the... Ugh, that's nasty. I'm going to swap this and see if it works. So as you can see from the other ones, it actually makes the light a bigger feature. Before, it was hard to decipher what was actually being animated on all of these like screens as pixels. I'm not complaining, that looks pretty good. So these are old screens, you can't see what the heck is going on the actual screen, and then we flick over to this. Oh yeah, and yeah, it's like night and day difference. And another thing to note with this approach is the other screens were actually all from Deadpan Robot. They were B stocks, they were all had lines and pixel to them, and this is because I didn't want to modify 50 perfectly working Game Boys. What was the point? They were more expensive and, you know, it just seems a bit of a waste. This just is heaps better. I've got to be honest, I'm pretty excited to put all the screens in. Have you ever been in a situation where you've got a number of problems and you sort of overcome them, and you find yourself in a better situation than you've ever been? For this instance, the screens just look better than they ever have, and then suddenly another massive problem arises that looks like it might just be a train wreck and just ruin your whole day. Well, yeah, that's just happened. And it comes in the form of the CPU mod. And the CPU clock mod is the thing that makes the sound and the pitch of the Game Boys just sound much more organic and fatter, and it kind of makes the sound of the Game Boy Mega Machine, well, it sounds crap without it, basically. When you take it down an octave, it makes the screens flutter and just go a bit mental, but you can still see what's happening and you can still see the parameters that you're changing. Well, I just did this to the IPS screens, and the second you slightly drift out of time, it just freezes. It doesn't work. The screen sometimes turns off, but most of the time the screen just freezes and it's just unusable. You can't see anything. I might have just wasted 1,500 quid on these new screens and I might not even be able to use them, because without the screens working slowed down, there's no point. There's no point. I don't think the new screen is relying on the old Game Boy clock, so I'm not quite sure what's at play. I'm really hoping it's not going to be a syncing issue, which it most likely is going to be. So before I put the next video out on the Game Boy Mega Machine, I need to solve this problem. This is a massive problem. I'm really hoping somebody may have an answer. I'm going to get in contact with the builders of these screens and see if they have any ideas, but I have a feeling this might be a problem. So that's it for the Game Boy Mega Machine today. Yeah, I obviously need to figure out this problem. I had a quick look at some pinouts of the ribbon cable that goes from the main Game Boy to the actual screen, and it's got like vertical sync, it's got horizontal sync, it's got clock. So I need to figure out what the new screen is actually listening to and whether I can build some sort of time-based corrector or something. Oh, it's all just getting complicated again. So I'll probably be doing a builder's live stream in the next couple of days and just looking with an oscilloscope and just figuring out what signals are going where. And like I said, if you want your name on one of the knobs, well, just go and join any tier on Patreon and you'll see lots of more content. You'll see more vlogs and builders live streams, stems, things, this and that and the other. And it will, needless to say, support the opening of the museum, which is very soon. It will just be after lockdown, and this will be done for then, I promise. I'm going to make sure the next update on the Game Boy Mega Machine is going to be pretty soon, as I'm going to focus on this. So if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and don't be scared to try it.